You ever look at a huge, ancient building and just wonder, what's holding it all together? It's not just the rocks and mortar, right? It's the blueprint. It's that core design that gives it this incredible, unshakable strength. Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today, the 5 foundational pillars of Islam. We're not just going to look at them as a list of rules, but as the actual architectural blueprint for a faith that has literally shaped civilizations. So let's start with that very idea, the structure itself.
No, really. Just think about it for a second. When you see a giant skyscraper or an old, beautiful cathedral, what's really holding it all up? It's definitely not the stuff you can see on the surface. It's that hidden foundation, Those core structural elements that, if you took even just one away, the whole thing would just come crumbling down. That idea right there, that's exactly what we need to keep in our minds as we go through this.
So, the structure that we are talking about today is Islam. And its blueprint, its design, it's not something that scholars just came up with recently. No, this comes from the source himself. It was laid out in a really famous teaching from the Prophet Muhammad, who actually used this exact metaphor to explain the very essence of the faith.
And here it is. This right here is the blueprint. And the first thing that just jumps right out at you is the language. It doesn't say Islam is made up of or the main duties are. No, it says Islam was built. That word is so intentional. It immediately tells us we're talking about a structure, a design, something absolutely essential. This single sentence, this is the entire foundation. And the number, it's specific. 5, not 4, not 6. In this architectural plan, there are exactly 5 core supports, and each one is a pillar, designed to carry the weight of the entire building. If you try to remove one, the whole structure is in jeopardy. So this number isn't just random. It's fundamental to the entire design. So what are these 5 pillars? Okay, first up, we have the Shahadah, which is the testimony of faith. Then comes Salah, the 5 daily prayers. Next up is Zakat, which is the mandatory charity. The 4th is the Hajj, the big pilgrimage to the house in Mecca. And finally, we have Psalm, which is the fasting during Ramadan. These aren't just, good suggestions. These 5 things are the absolute bedrock of the building.
Now, we could just stop right there with the list, right? But that's not where the real gold is. The real insight, that comes from looking closer and analyzing the blueprint itself. The way these pillars are described actually tells us so much more about how the entire structure of the faith is supposed to work.
And this brings us to a really critical point. Not all good deeds are built the same. The pillars, or arkan, they're the non-negotiable foundation. Think of them as the main load-bearing walls. All the other good deeds, the mustahabat, well, they're like the finishing touches, the paint on the walls, the beautiful decorations. Now, you can have a building with no paint and it's still going to stand, right? But what happens if you neglect a load-bearing pillar? Yeah, that's not just a cosmetic problem. That's a major, major structural failure.
Okay, let's nerd out for a second and just zoom in on the grammar here, because it's actually super revealing. The Prophet didn't say Islam is being built. He said it was built. Past tense. And the sources are clear. This is not some slip of the tongue. What it implies is that the foundation has already been laid. The blueprint is finished. You can't just wake up one day and decide, you know what, I'm going to add a 6th pillar. Or, I'm not a huge fan of this one, let's take it out. The core structure is, and you have to love this, quite literally set in stone.
So, okay, we've got this really precise, complete blueprint. But a blueprint is only useful if it's been preserved perfectly, right? I mean, how can we be so sure that the design we're looking at today is the exact same one laid out over 1,400 years ago? Well, the answer isn't just in the document itself, but in the people who carried it forward.
And believe it or not, the sources give us this perfect, real-world example of this preservation in action. It's a fantastic story, and it involves the very man who first narrated this teaching about the 5 pillars, a companion of the Prophet named Abdullah ibn Omar. And what happened to him just shows you the incredible level of precision that they were committed to.
So the story goes that one day a man is reciting this teaching back to Ibn Omar, but he accidentally swapped the last 2 pillars. He said, fasting Ramadan and Hajj. Now to you and me, that sounds like, what's the big deal? The meaning is basically the same, right? But Ibn Umar, he did not let it slide. He immediately stopped the man and corrected him, insisting the proper order was pilgrimage, then fasting. So why? Why would he care so much about such a tiny little detail?
His reason was just so powerful in its simplicity. He said, "This is how I heard it from the messenger of Allah." See, for him, it wasn't about his own interpretation. It was about perfect, exact transmission. The source material kind of poses this question to us. If they were that meticulous about the order of two little words, is it really conceivable that they would have just added or removed an entire pillar from the foundation? It's a powerful point. Okay, so let's zoom back in on the foundation itself, and let's look at the very first pillar, the Shahadah. Because if the 5 pillars are the foundation, then this one is the cornerstone. It's the one on which all the others are placed.
So when we get up close and look at this first pillar, this cornerstone, we see it's actually made of 2 distinct parts. First, the declaration that there is only one God. And second, the declaration that Muhammad is his messenger. So that raises a pretty interesting design question, doesn't it? Why combine these 2 powerful statements into one single pillar?
And the answer is that structurally, they are completely inseparable. Think of it like a stone archway. You need both sides for the whole thing to stay up. According to Islamic theology, one part of this testimony is basically meaningless without the other. You can't truly believe in God without accepting the messenger that he sent to deliver the blueprint. And you can't really believe in the messenger without accepting the God who sent him in the first place. They are 2 halves of a single, indivisible whole.
And there's another beautiful layer of meaning here that the source material points out. This dual testimony perfectly captures the 2 highest stations of the prophet. His servanthood represents his ultimate devotion to God. That's the highest thing a human being can offer. And his messengership is the ultimate honor from God, the highest thing a human being can receive. And that single declaration, that one cornerstone, holds both of those incredible truths.
So when we step back and look at the whole picture, it becomes really clear this is so much more than just a list of 5 things. It's like a theological masterclass, all condensed into this one single architectural metaphor. It teaches us what's absolutely essential versus what's complementary. It tells us that the blueprint is complete and finished, and it shows us the unbelievable, mind-boggling precision with which that blueprint was preserved and passed down.
And that brings us right back to where we started with our metaphor. If these 5 acts are the non-negotiable, load-bearing pillars that hold the entire structure up, it leaves us with one final question to think about. What does it mean to build the rest of the building? What are the walls, the windows, and the roof made of? Now that is something to ponder.